block, 11.5 inches in square. And there's, let's see, you got oak, purple heart, walnut, maple, wingy, red veneer, yellow heart, wedge, Paduke. Nope, no Paduke. No Paduke this time. Because I couldn't get it to keep from bleeding onto the whitewood. So it's got rosewood and what else? Aspen. And there's 2,214 pieces in it. And basically you just start, you cut 1/8 inch thick layers, and then you just cut circles out of each layer, and then you just laminate them together, cut them, glue them up. And as you go up, you rotate it just a little bit. You can't rotate it a degree. You got to rotate it, like in this case, there's on the side here, there's where it's got the, where is it? Right there. Where it's got the rosewood, then there's wingy, and then yellow heart and another one. You just rotate it just a little bit of that piece. So that, because otherwise, if you try and rotate it at degrees, it's not going to look as well as this one. And this one, I started one direction and then went back the other direction. And it's just got a sanding sealer and then multiple coats of polyurethane on it.
Yeah, that'd be good. I take that.
This year at the Irish Fest, this is what idle hands will give you idle time. Bought some wood at the symposium, and just for a public service announcement, you need to thoroughly inspect wood that's either given to you or you buy, because when I was turning this piece here, and I don't know if you can see it, in the one of the streaks there, there's a crack that runs all the way through the back. And I turned it, and it started to immediately warp. And I asked Kevin, I said, that can't be wet wood, make a warp like that, because it was fairly thick. And I took it home and looked at it, and there's a hairline crack. And right where you can kind of see it's got a little lip to it. Right where that lip is where that crack's at. So I'm going to have to do some interesting playing with some epoxy. And it's got 2 nail holes where the people that harvested it must have had a nail or so in it. The eucalyptus, if you ever have a cold, that's a good wood to turn while you got that. That'll clear you out. And this was my first attempt, and probably will be the last, with Norfolk Island pine. If anybody happens to give you a piece of that, my only suggestion, there's 2 of them. You really sharpen your tools to a fine razor's edge, turn a mallet, and then beat them with it. Because this wood here will tear out on you just at a, look at it funny. So that's what I did over the fest.
Well, this isn't my favorite piece of the year, but it's the favorite piece that I still have. My best pieces I've given away, but this is a spalted maple that I showed last time we met, and I still like it.
I could have brought about 12 different pieces that are really
enjoyed turning this year, and I selected 2 of them. This is one that I worked with over at Don's. We were experimenting with epoxy. We were experimenting with epoxy. This happens to be a pine cone and 3 different colors of epoxy, and it turned out really cool. This piece is a piece of walnut burl, okay? And I had it in my shop for 12 years and just didn't feel comfortable turning it until one day last year I just decided, okay, I'm going to core it, and it turned out really beautiful. And then on September 30th, actually 2 weeks after September 30th was a wonderful day for me because that's when my first grandchild was born. Okay, so then I want to show you this picture if I can get to it. Can you see this? Okay, he is in that bowl. He's dressed as an acorn. Do you see the acorn look there? And he's in the big bowl. He's 2 weeks old right there. That's Grayson Tate. So here I was going to sell this on Etsy, and I thought, I'm wondering why isn't it sold yet? Well, my wife, she took it off the Etsy thing. It's now an heirloom. I mean, we can't sell it because he was in there. So anyway, that was a fun pick. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
This started out as a box in a Rudy Lopez workshop, and rather than doing straight sides on the box, I decided I wanted to make a mushroom box. And after I got the mushroom box made, I decided it needed to be a mushroom house. And it sat around for a long time and didn't get anything done to it. And then the AEW symposium was coming up, and it was like, well, if I want it in the instant gallery, I have to finish it. So I drew the door and the various garden items around the sides and put them in with a wood burner and colored it with dyes. And I turned I thought it was a chimney acorn. This is a box. This is also a box. A little harder to get off. And someone suggested that this is a mailbox for deliveries by Dragonfly. So this is willow, and the top and bottom are walnut, and the top of the acorn is walnut, and this is cherry, because it was closest I could find to walnut, or to willow. And this was my first attempt at the sanded oil finish that Rudy Lopez does. My experience with it is that it collects dust really well.
Well, when you only do a couple of pieces, you don't have much to choose from. So this is my inside-out pine Christmas ornament turning.
This is about the favorite piece that I turned. Actually, it was kind of a toss-up. But I selected this as my favorite piece that I turned in 2017 because I wanted to make a basket of illusion bowl. And after Rick's demo, I learned how to do that, and so I went whole hog. It's not done because for Christmas I got a wood burner, okay, and it just came like Friday. So, but I did get an indexer, and so I indexed all the lines on the inside and the outside, and I'm going to turn this off and then put a couple more beads in there. But the biggest thing was I thought, you know, you could just go on how you find anything on Google or anything for the pattern to, you know, to do this with. No, there are no off-the-shelf patterns that you can buy or find. So I created my own, and this was a real interesting because taking a look at all the different ones, I wanted to use like native Indian colors, you know, the dyes and so forth that were available to them. And I kind of came up with this design. So anyway, when it's done, the next step is to burn the lines in here and across the beads, and then color it in here with this. But I'll bring it back when it's done and you can actually see what it looks like. But this has been a project since, well, after we did that, Rick did this demo, and the challenge was the following month. So anyway, that's it.
This is a wing bowl that I played with this year. I kind of got comfortable with the shape and form and some even smaller pieces that I had done earlier. I think I brought a couple of them into show and followed the same routine that I did. I drilled the holes in the piece. It started out as a 3-inch thick 6x6 chunk that I got back here at the auction. Had nice beveled corners. Everything was real square. I don't usually have pieces like that, so that's what kind of drove me to go into this type of form, is I knew I had my outer corners were at least starting at the points where I needed them to be. When I got done and I had the holes in there without the wood burn decoration, the holes didn't seem to have a reason for being there. I created the design and burned the burned the lines into it to kind of tie everything together, and was real happy with the way it ended up. I think I put a walnut oil finish on it. Did nice with the grain.
This is one of my earlier works. This was done, and we went to Paducah to a quilt show, and I was totally enamored by the wood-turned cowboy hats that they had on sale, except for the price. They were between $700 and $1,200. And I came home and I said, well, you know, I still want to do a hat, but I don't have a lathe big enough to do a cowboy hat, and I don't have the skill. I've never done one. So this crabapple tree was in my daughter's yard, and it was just beautiful wood. So I turned a really thin edge, and it turned out just really great. And, you know, now I'm almost ready to think about doing a real hat. And if you ever see that, it'll just be because it turned out. But it was fun.
This was my December project. After being at the AAW, the work there was just phenomenal and really stimulated me to try and go beyond what I've previously been able to do. And this is one of 3 pieces, the other 2 of which are still in the log, but they're itching to get out. So I will be working on those in 2018. The finial, I had never really done much with finials, and the finial really taught me a little bit better fine control. So this is a piece of honey locust. If you ever get another opportunity to get honey locust, put it with the Norfolk pine because it's extremely difficult to work. It splinters and it does all sorts of bad things to you. This comes off so you can look in there and you can see through parts of it because it's cracked. And that's apparently part of what honey locust does. It cracks, it breaks. It's really good for toothpicks.
It's box. You should be surprised to see that I made one. It's got 12 threads to the inch instead of the usual 16 that I make. I did that because it's a greater diameter. I got the piece of wood from Charlie, and it was firewood, right? It was dry. This is olive, and it was completely dry. It had been dry probably from wherever it came from, either somewhere around Mediterranean, or I guess they also grow it in California. He may have said where he got it from. I don't remember. This was the largest piece that I could get out of it, diameter-wise. Like the log was actually like this, and with the pith right here, and so there's cracks radiating out, and that was the biggest column I could get out of it. That's good. All this great stuff to turn. I didn't put a finish on the inside. Still got dusties in it, and it just got a wax finish on it. That's all.
Okay, probably the most important thing was this. I turned it because my wife and daughter are very much into Harry Potter, and then she encouraged me to turn a bunch of them for the Irish Festival. So it became an interesting activity for me, turning-wise. And this was on 4 different axes, so that's how you get the little. And it's fine turning because it's so small. And then another thing for Christmas ornaments, I did the bells, and this was one that my wife finally got, seeing that I was getting better after turning them for siblings. And I just wanted to throw a plug in for Jerry. These tops are throwaways from, when you chuck something up and you've got that little round piece and you just drill a hole in there. And I turn my own dowels, so it's hardwood there, and I try to match the hardwood to those. So these are for Jerry's cause over here. So that's it. And this is honey locust, and I do like honey locust for like a bowl and that, if it doesn't crack on you. So I've been pretty lucky with that.
This was the last piece that I turned last year, also the first platter that I turned. And this was the last piece that I turned last year and the first platter that I turned. And I just was real pleased with the way it turned out.
Okay, is that everybody? Anyone else have anything for the challenge?
Well, this isn't the finished product. Anthony, about 3 months ago, or was it just a couple of months ago? November? Well, anyhow, he turned a spalted hackberry bowl, and it warped terrible. I drug it out of almost the trash in the clubhouse, and it was warped 3/4 of an inch out of round. So you couldn't turn it. It was unturnable. If you would have turned it, it would have gone through the sides. So what I decided was to figure out a way to actually use it. So the idea was to make it round again. So I put in a segmented strip of walnut right through the center of this bowl. And this walnut strip is tapered from 5/8 of an inch to about 1/2 an inch because it's out around 3/4 of an inch out here, but right here it's only out around about 1/2 an inch. So it's a little bit tapered, but it took me about a day to do it. It really didn't take that long. It took me longer to figure out how to measure for the width of the strip and how to cut that properly to get a nice slice through it. After that, it really wasn't all that hard because you have the bowl on the half shell, and you can put the half on a piece of paper and trace it and see what you got to have to fill it. So, and I do segmented rings all the time, so it was pretty easy for me. But I'd never done anything like this before. So if you ever have a beautiful wooden bowl that goes out around, this is how you fix it. It's perfectly round now. It's round within a 1/16 of an inch. But the next month, I'll bring it in as the final product. And I think it'll look better than this. So, any questions?
Doesn't that violate what is the second or third law?
That when you turn something, the inside's got to be smaller? It violates the third law. It does. So it's actually not the part I put back in because it's a whole different tree. It's walnut. So that it doesn't violate. So thank goodness I'm not off to jail, Woodturners jail. Any other questions? Okay. Put this in your toolkit. You can fix that stuff.
This is I'd picked up some silver maple, and this is just a crotch piece that had a little bit of spalting going on it, and my wife has a wall of platters that I've been doing, so she had a space that she was wanting filled, so this was a Christmas present. So.
My wife wanted me to make her an ornament Christmas tree this year, and so I made a 3-foot tree out of dowels and tapered them and put it all together and started making Christmas ornaments during the month of December. And I think I probably worked on 7 or 8. And a lot of them were this Indian bead type design where you bead it and then color it and the whole works. This particular one is just beaded, and it's a piece of wood that David Burks gave me, and it turned out beautiful, just beaded that way. For our Christmas lights at our house, we put up the C9s, which are about this size, and so I wanted to make a Christmas ornament like a light bulb or a Christmas light, and so this hangs on the Christmas ornament tree as well. Then I got real creative. So this one is not threaded. It's fake. Okay. This one is threaded. So it has 4.5 threads per inch, and Now what I need to do is I need to figure out how to hollow this thing because it's heavy. I mean, I can hang it on this thing, but believe me, it wants to tip over. If I can do it here. Barely. So anyway, the goal next time is to make another one, and maybe I can thread this thing on and hollow that whole thing out, rethread it, and then make the bigger threads. So that's going to be the goal. And then I forgot to show you on this one, I did a little captive ring on the African blackwood. So I brought this one in because I needed it to pass the Sean test. Sean likes finials thin, not voluptuous. So anyway, it passed the Sean test.
I don't know what the deal is with wood turning. Everything you turn wants to roll away from you. Can you get that? Do I need to move it? Christmas tends to keep on going on and on for me. These are Christmas tree ornaments that I actually started turning before Christmas. And I managed to get the ornaments turned for those I was going to have Christmas with, and then all the other relatives that didn't feel like having Christmas with me, they got their stuff, get their stuff after Christmas. And those kits are really fun, and whenever I have scraps lying around in the shop, I use a bandsaw to cut them into, semi-round pieces and glue them up. And I've got a tub that is full of just all sorts of blanks, and so I always have something sitting around for me to just grab and turn. And it's a lot of fun, and I use a pin turning mandrel, which is very handy. The brass tube that comes with these is a little bit too short. They're usually about this long, and that kind of limits your creativity. So last time I was in woodcraft, I bought some of the longer ones that are designed for pins, and also had hanging around in the shop a nice long piece of tube that I'd cut down to make some longer pieces as well. And it's a lot of fun. It's easy. And it's a little bit of a challenge because those pin turning mandrels are made for turning pins, which are fairly narrow in diameter. So when you get these things turning, sometimes it wants to spin on the mandrel. But it's fun.
I brought this piece in just because there's a bunch of people in the shop that watched me blow it up the other day. And I wanted them to know that I took it home and made it work. So I broke the third law. I made the inside bigger than the outside. And luckily it didn't break the top. It didn't break the bottom. I just had to kind of straighten out the edges and create a band. I didn't do a great job on the inside because I was afraid I didn't have enough glue. So anyway, this is how it turned out, but I saved it.
You get a bowl full here. Basically, Christmas bells. Last we had our Christmas party here, and I didn't participate because I'd made 13 of these the week before for all the kids and relatives. So that's my Christmas bell. And I've got boy bells and girl bells. And you know how you get from one to the others when you're trying to make a boy bell and you can't quite keep the center in? That's my story. And this was a piece of walnut that I had that I sort of worked perfectly to get the outer edge of the bark offset and still have it. And I'm sort of my hobby is this, if I do something, I really like to have simple lines, absolutely clean, and I think I qualified on that. I've got about 40 likes on Facebook, and so I think other folks agree. And some of you know that I acquired Rick's one-way lathe, and so this was my first attempt at doing cord bowls, and this is the bowl I call the baling wire bowl, because you'll notice that it has a separation that goes clear through to the bottom, but not all the way through the bottom. So I remember my grandfather told me, if you put baling wire on something, you can hold 1,000 pounds. And I said, okay, if I put a piece of baling wire around here and twist it, I'll know if it's going to come apart. So that's how we proceeded with this. And then I got a vacuum chuck, put it up there, and took off the baling wire and finished the bottom. So I was pretty happy with how that whole story turned out. And it's elm, and it's the awfulest wood I've ever turned. I had this snot, if you will, everywhere. So I don't know whether I had an unusual piece of elm or not, but I'm not going to choose it for my next project.
These are just naturalized bowls made out of walnut. These two came out of the same piece, like this. Partner, that one sold. I don't know why. I've always liked natural edge bowls, and trying to keep them. I like to make them thin too, so that they don't. I don't know. They don't feel heavy. And you don't have to. You know, Kevin, this for you. You don't have to worry if they warp. You can let go of that. Okay. And this has that semi-gloss or gloss, semi-gloss satin lacquer on them.
This is a piece of black oak, and I tried to turn something beyond anything I'd ever tried. And I'm finding that hollowing is how much courage you can do going in there, because the deeper it gets, the more the vibration, and you just keep on going like, well, is it all coming apart sooner or later? But everybody liked it for, the vase it was.
This is important. This guy's telling me that this is a turkey egg. This is obviously not a turkey egg. This is the reason that trees have seeds. This was found in one of the earliest Neanderthal sites. This is an egg cup, and this is a walnut egg. And it's why walnut trees no longer reproduce by eggs, because the Neanderthals were eating them all.
Pardon the addition here, but I wanted to share something. If any of you work with your Morse taper fittings, you know, and the tapers and the spindles and so forth. On occasion, they just get a spin and they get screwed up. Well, if it happens on your headstock, you got a problem because that's tempered steel. And so I did a little bit of searching on the internet thinking there has to be a way to refinish Morse tapers. And so I thought, well, just buy a reamer and a finishing reamer that is hardened steel, and you can just do that. Well, obviously, you aren't going to finish any tempered steel with a steel reamer. It should fit. I mean, so that's the right taper, right. So I contacted a company that plates diamonds, and I had them sent them the Morse taper, finishing and cutting reamer, and I just got them last Friday, and I tried it with a little bit of oil and so forth, and without question, it will cut hardened steel. And so I don't know how it'll all turn out, but I'm going to use that. And if you do have bad Morse taper, the female, now only the female, don't have a male version of that, but the female part. So I just wanted to let you know, if any of you got a problem with your female Morse taper, this might be a solution because there are no other ones made. I have asked, and no, we don't make that. Never had a call for it, you know. So anyway.
Is that a Morse taper 2 or 3?
It's a 2 that I had, but they'd do any of them. Actually, it wasn't a bad deal. They charged $75 each one of them, and the finishing has about 30 faces on it that'll cut, and so you could do much more aggressive. And the finish one is just like 15 or so, you know, straight line cuts that are formed in the taper. But you're gonna have to, and then you know, what's the cutting speed, what's the cutting pressure? Nobody knows, but it'll work out.
Just go easy, huh?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, we got anybody